to dissect girls. Did you know I'm utterly insane?
Why don't you make like a tree and get out of here?
The blackest eyes.
Puny God.
Come on!
To make this episode.
You're terminated, fucker.
Live or die, man.
Roads? We're going, we don't need roads.
There can be only one.
Kill you all.
Goonies never say die.
We all need each other. As you can see, I'm not happier.
Are you not entertained?
This is friend.
Happy trails, Hans.
Welcome back to the Skewered Universe Podcast. My name is Jeff.
And I'm Leiann.
And Leiann, this week, we're not watching a movie, right?
No, we're not. Well, I mean we did.
We did watch some stuff, but that's because we have a very special guest on with us today. He's been on before. He was actually the first person I have ever interviewed for this show. He's behind such movies as It's My Party and I'll Die If I Want To, The Rake, A Chance in Hell, High on the Hog with the great Sid Haig. Of course, I'm talking about the man from Scotchworthy Productions himself, Tony Wash. Tony, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing awesome.
That's great.
I'm doing fantastic. Amazing.
People can probably tell we already had like a 5-minute conversation before this started, right?
What are you talking about? Podcast magic. You just logged into the call.
Yeah.
So it's good to have you back, man. I mean, it's been too long. I should have had you on a lot sooner so we could talk some horror shit and all that, because you are a plethora of knowledge when it comes to horror from the last time we talked, I remember.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's always been my number one interest in life, which is kind of probably a weird thing to say, but there's so many of us out there, so I at least know that there's a kinship to people like you, and I couldn't think of doing anything else with my time than, watching horror movies and writing horror scripts and making horror movies and stuff. I absolutely love it. I miss going to horror conventions. COVID really screwed that up for a few years, and I'm eager to get back again. So,
yeah, I'd like to get out to another convention. Leiann and I have been to one here in California that they did a couple of times called Scare LA, and it was really fun. I actually met Bill Moseley out there, who was like the nicest guy ever.
Yeah, Bill's super cool. It's funny because you meet these guys from Devil's Rejects and House of a Thousand Corpses, and it's like, what are they called? The something Fire Family or something? I don't
Firefly family.
Firefly. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even say it.
Yeah, the Firefly family. Yeah, like you meet them and you're just like, wait a minute. You guys are such assholes in the movie. Like, you're not even remotely like that in real life. And yeah, Bill and obviously Sid, I spent a little bit of time with Bill at the conventions because he was always situated next to Sid's table, and I would hang out with Sid an awful lot. And they always had such a fun dynamic together where they would play off of each other and hang out and stuff. And the fans always got a kick out of it. And it was always fun to kind of be around those weekends.
I can imagine, because I can see those two just having a hell of a lot of fun together. And I've seen some of the pictures that Bill has posted from the past of when him and Sid were at these conventions. And I'm like, man, I wish I could have just been there to listen to the banter between those two, just them going back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of funny stuff, because that's the great thing about both of them is that they're really funny in general, and Bill and Sid both have been in the business for so long. I mean, Sid obviously was in the business over 50 years, but Bill even had been making movies since at least the early 80s, if not the late 70s, that I know of. I mean, I don't know what he was in prior to Texas 2, but you know, for them to have as many memories and so many different trials and tribulations of being in the business, it was just always kind of interesting. And their friendship was genuine. You know, you could tell that they were a couple of guys who had a genuine, you know, love for each other, and enjoyed seeing each other, because Sid's obviously was California, and I think Bill lives in Illinois. I know he's from Illinois, and I'm pretty sure he still lives here, which is where I'm at. And so I think that, you know, when they would see each other probably once a month, if not more, at these conventions, I think that it was just a really nice little reunion for him each weekend. So yeah, I miss Sid. I miss him a lot. I really regret not working with him again. We had talked about putting him in Skeletons in the Closet when it was still being called Chop Shop. And it would have been amazing to have him in that. And I've been talking to him about being in another film that I've been, you know, just kind of tooling around with in the background for the last, since 2016. So it, you know, it's unfortunate that we never got another opportunity to work together, because we talked about it. Even at the last convention I saw him at before he passed, he was like, "Here's my agent's number again. Give her a call. Let's set something up." And, you know, he passed probably a couple of weeks after that, I want to say.
Wow.
Yeah, it was maybe, no, it was a couple. I think he passed in August or September. His birthday was in July. So my birthday's in July, and he was like a week after me was his birthday. But yeah, I think he passed a couple months after, but I saw him in June of, what was that, 19 when he passed away, 2019. So
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. But yeah, just all around awesome dude, and really miss him.
Yeah, he was someone I always wished I could have met at one of those conventions, especially after meeting Bill, to like get the other one of that duo that I had always seen pictures of at those conventions. Because when I saw Bill, it was funny. I was walking by his table, and he's just sitting there waiting for people to come up, and I stopped and I looked. No, wait a minute. I did a double take. Then I walked over and I said, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do a double take, but I didn't realize this was actually you sitting here. I'm a huge fan of yours." He was like, "Yeah, it's just me." And he was so cool. And then we both kind of shared a joke over people who didn't understand what the chop top appliances were that he had autographed at the table. They're like, "Ew, what are these? These are weird. I don't get it," and walked away.
Because they probably know him from Devil's Rejects, and they have no idea he was in Texas Chainsaw too. You know?
Yeah. And honestly, in the back of my mind, I wanted to look at him and go, "Lick my plate, you dog dick." But you know, probably would have been what is that?
That's pulling from the archives right there. That's a quote to end all quotes. To be fair, I haven't seen that movie in about 20 years.
It's been one that ever since I saw it about 4 years ago, it's been in the rotation at least once a year.
Oh, you had only seen it 4 years ago for the first time, huh?
I had heard everything about it. I had seen the images of Bill as Chop Top and everything, and I had just never got a hold of it. And then finally I saw it somewhere, was like, I'm watching this fucking movie, and
that was one of those films where I was a kid. I don't remember the name of the movie that it was in, but it's in a movie. It's playing on the TV in a movie. And the character's watching the TV and it's happening, and then something happens to the character. And I don't even know if it was a horror movie. Like it wasn't UHF, but I want to say it was like something like that, where it was like but it might have been a horror movie. I don't remember. But the character's watching Texas 2, and it's the part where he comes into the radio station and he's like fucking with Caroline Williams. And I'm pretty sure that's, my memory might not be serving me the best, but I've also been up since yesterday. So because I work overnight. So I might not be remembering correctly, but I'm pretty sure that that's what it is that I remember seeing that as a kid, and I was a very young kid, and I was like, man, what is this movie? This looks awesome. And And then at one point I caught a part of it probably on TV or something where they're like at the amusement park at the end and she's like running through all those caves. And I was just like, man, whatever this is batshit. And I want to see it. And then I bought the VHS tape when I was probably like 13, 14 years old. And I probably haven't watched it since I was like 20. I should throw it on one of these nights. My wife probably would hate it. It's kind of a weird movie.
It's batshit insane, and it proves just how slightly off kilter Tobe Hooper really was.
Oh yeah.
But
oh yeah.
I'm totally fine with that. I mean, it works for me. It's dumb fun. I mean, it's batshit insane. Dennis Hopper coked out of his mind, swinging chainsaws around. What's not to love?
That I love Dennis Hopper in it, and it's got some amazing gore effects when that dude is in the Mercedes convertible and like gets his head cut in half. Like it's so fucking cool. And just even seeing like Leatherface standing on the back of that truck when they're driving next to him and he's like dancing around and he's got that like dead body strapped to the front of him. It's just so quirky, but it's really creepy and kind of weird and cool. And yeah, I mean, you know, here we are talking horror, like we said we were going to save for another podcast, but it's like, you know, Tobe Hooper, obviously he's one of the greats, but it's still funny to me because I feel like he still doesn't necessarily get the credit that a lot of the other greats get. Even like George Romero gets more credit than Tobe Hooper does. And I love Romero. I, you know, rest in peace, you know, but like other than, I mean, Creepshow is awesome, and the Living Dead trilogy, because I don't really think about the other films, but the right. First three are pretty awesome in their own rights. But other than that, Two Evil Eyes, whatever, you know, and I don't really know. Off the top of my head, I can't think of other things that he did. Night Riders and stuff like that. Who cares? Crazies. But like,
yeah,
Tobe
there's
Hooper,
Martin that I haven't seen either. There's much of Romero's work I still haven't seen, but I know it's out there.
Martin is, you know, people like it, and I understand why they like it, but it's a little too boring for me. And it's very low budget, so you know you give credit where credit's due in terms of him creating a movie on film back then with no money, and it shows, you know, because it's very low budget. That's why it hasn't really gotten major distribution over the years, but you know, it's good for what it is. You know, you think of other low budget movies like that, where it's minimal characters, minimal locations, and I think he did a good job, and he did something back before people were doing that. You know, at least that I know of. I haven't really discovered very many super low budget horror films that weren't like, you know, cheesy rubber suit monster movies like Corman style stuff.
Right.
But you get back to Hooper, and it's like, you know, you think about not just Texas Chainsaw, obviously, which redefined the genre, but whether people want to say that Steven Spielberg was basically steering the vehicle for Poltergeist or not, Poltergeist still has some sort of Tobe Hooper influence over it, and that's a great movie. And I love some of the newer movies he did. His Toolbox Murders remake and Mortuary. Have you seen those?
I have not. They're on my list. I have a list of shame. You know, the list we all have of things that we haven't seen that we probably should have fucking have by now. So they are definitely on my list of movies.
Do yourself a favor. They're really awesome. Like they kind of fall into that mixed bag of late like 2000s, like early 2010s movies that were like the post Saw era, but like the pre kind of elevated bullshit horror, and that were all direct to video when there were still video stores, and they're just really good. Like the killer in Toolbox Murders is super cool, and the apartment complex is really neat, and his whole lair is a great location. And then Mortuary is just a super cool, wacky like movie with the mom from Pet Sematary in it, and it's a lot of fun. It's a really cool movie, so definitely check them out. I think they're on Tubi.
Nice.
You got to deal with commercials, but who cares? They're unedited.
Hey, you know, Tubi's fine. Speaking of Tubi, that's actually how I went back and rewatched Skeletons in the Closet.
Cool. I hate that it's got the commercial breaks, but at least the movie's unedited and it's on there for people to see. So
yeah, that was the biggest thing for me. Is I'm like, man, these commercials just kind of. Skeletons to me is a movie that you need to watch uncut, without the ads, because it does kind of interfere with the flow of everything. That being said, I still had a lot of fun watching that movie.
I appreciate that. Yeah,
I do need to show it to Leiann. She works graveyard, so she doesn't have the same time that I have where I can watch stuff. So,
she a nurse?
No, Leiann.
No. No. I just work in a file room / warehouse.
Gotcha. Yeah, I work overnights too, so I know it's not an easy schedule to live. But
especially when me and him want to watch something together.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. Like, my wife, she runs her own business, so thankfully she works from home, so she's able to kind of curtail her schedule around mine, and that really helps, because otherwise we've said it too that we would never see each other. So it's I can understand the pain.
Yeah.
But hopefully you guys. Jeff said that you guys were going to watch some of the stuff together. You're going to have a little marathon yesterday, so I'm hoping that ended up happening.
Yeah, Jeff, go. Let's dive into that, because I've got stuff to say.
Let's go ahead. So first, she was actually sleeping, because it was earlier in the day. She had got home just a few hours before, so I decided to watch High on the Hog. And I love that movie. It is everything I want in a modern version of an exploitation film from the 70s. It felt so grindhouse. Sid Haig was brilliant. Joe Estevez chewed every piece of goddamn scenery he was given.
Yeah.
And even Robert Zadar. I was like, this is amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it really ended up turning out to be a really great movie in the end. I'm really proud of it, because going into it, there was a lot of concern, and even 5 days into shooting, the producer walked off set, and so we were thinking that we weren't going to finish making the movie, and it ended up turning into a pretty great little film. And the time on that set is some of the best that I've had in the business. The entire cast and crew stayed in a roadside motel outside of Galena, Illinois, which is this picturesque little town in the right on the Mississippi River Valley. And it was an awesome experience while we were shooting it. And that was, 10 years ago, this August, it'll be 10 years that we shot that movie.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was pretty awesome. Hanging out with Sid Haig, getting to know him, having beers with him, and just listening to him tell stories and bullshitting with him and earning his respect. That was tremendous. And Joe too, because Joe's a real hard ass, and he's one of those guys that doesn't really take shit. And you can tell that he believes that he deserves respect because of the career that he's had in his name. And and I appreciate that he really enjoyed working with me, from what he told me, and my cinematographer Rob Stern. And Robert Zadar was a real treat, and that's such a weird, cheesy thing for me to say, like the way to word it, but legitimately just a wonderful guy. And I had heard rumors. I worked at an advertising company with this guy who was a director who had done a couple of low budget horror movies, and he had Joe Estevez in his film. Like, this would have been 5-6 years before I went to shoot High on the Hog. And I just quit this job, and this guy gave me a call and was like, oh, I heard you're directing this movie. And he's like warning me about how Joe Estevez and Robert Zadar are like big alcoholics and partiers, and they're hard to wrangle. And I'm just like, fuck, like this is just going to be a disaster. But I'm making another movie and I get to direct Sid Haig and Robert Zadar and Joe Estevez, so I'm going to make the most of it. And and I was getting paid a little bit of money. It was pennies when all said and done, but it was a little bit of money, and I'd never been paid to direct before, so that was awesome. And it was the complete opposite of what I thought. 5 days into it, the producer walked off set. Rob, myself, Sid Haig, and Bob Farster, whose farm we were shooting on, and he was kind of the locations guru because he lives out there and he knew everybody and everything about that area. The four of us basically got promoted to producer, and we all stood up and said, all right, if you guys are with us, crew and cast, we'll finish making this movie. And everybody said, hell yeah. And from that day on, it was just magical. It was absolutely amazing. And some of the best memories I've got making movies.
That's awesome. And it definitely comes through that cast had like a camaraderie because the chemistry between everybody on screen. And I neglected to mention Ellie Church as the DJ.
Yeah.
She's great. Her voice is perfect for that kind of DJ. And I was sitting there going, all right. Yeah, I could definitely listen to her. Like back in the day, I could hear her on those overnight shifts. I'd be like, okay, yeah, this is cool.
Yeah. Ellie, so we shot the stuff with Ellie in July of 2016. So it was 4 years later. We had done an original edit of the movie, and it was good. The executive producer didn't really like it because it didn't lend itself to the grindhouse nature that he wanted the movie to be. And while we were shooting the movie, halfway through shooting, it was like the 9th day, and Sid and I got together after shooting because I was all frustrated, and I always tell this story. And we went out and we got a couple of beers at this bar, and we were just kind of talking about it and everything. And he basically just kind of said to me, he's like, if you feel like, because we both kind of agreed that there were, it almost felt like we were making two different movies. There was these real cheesy kind of like just hokey moments where it's supposed to be silly and absurd and exploitation. And then there's these other moments where the actors were taking their characters and I was letting them build these characters, and they were making them very heartfelt and very dramatic and very endearing. And I just kind of said to him, like, it sucks because I feel like there's two different movies here, and there's elements of both that are good, but I don't think that they're going to mix well together the way I currently see this playing out for the next 14 days that we're shooting. And he said, he's like, if you have it in your head and in your heart on how to run with this and make it feel better, then do it. And so he bought me a 12-pack of Busch Light. I went back to the motel. He went to bed. I partied till like 4 a.m. with a bunch of the girls because I was freshly single, and woke up the next morning. We were shooting the barbecue band scene, and we had to get a generator. So my buddy Jim and I drove the 3 hours back to the Chicago suburbs to pick up the generator. And I called the executive producer, who was the writer of the movie, and I said, hey, do you mind if I kind of have some free will here to do these things and change a bunch of stuff in the script? And he said, Tony, if you can get it done and make the movie and finish it and make it congruent, then do it. And with that blessing, I basically ran with it, and I rewrote half the script basically in the car ride. Got back, sat at a picnic table with all the main cast members and Sid. Sid basically said to them, guys, Tony's got this idea. Listen to him. I support it. Let's do it. And everybody listened to me. They were like, hell yeah. And I was like, sweet, this is going to work out. And we just went from there and added a bunch of stuff like the breakfast scene when Lucy or AJ comes to the farm at first, and she sits down and they welcome her to the breakfast at the picnic table. And, it just really helped build a lot of these relationships between these characters better. And so anyways, then we had that film. I'm sorry, I'm very long-winded. I'm just excited to be on a podcast.
We're excited to have you. So talk away, man. Talk away.
Well, I appreciate
for
you
real
listening to me. I appreciate it. But so we had the movie, we had the edit done. It was picture locked, and we were all happy with it, but it wasn't what we thought it was going to be. And distributors didn't really think there was much to it. And so the guy who edited the new version of the movie, Ben, basically was like, hey, I've got this idea. And Ben's batshit crazy. I mean, this guy smokes 2 packs of cigarettes a day, drinks 30 cups of coffee and 10 Red Bulls. And he's basically like, he pitches the executive producer and Rob and I basically like, this is how I see this kind of coming together. And we all sat and we talked about it, and we came up with the idea for the radio DJ, similar to the Warriors, helping tie everything together. And so then when we decided to pull together the resources to make these additional scenes in 2016, I started doing the casting, and I reached out to like Scott Shermer, who did Found and Harvest Lake, and I forgot the movie he just did. I can't remember the name of it. But he did a bunch of films and had worked with Ellie a bunch, and a couple other people that knew the independent scream queens. We're not talking the Linnea Quigleys of yesterday or the Brink Stevens, and we're not talking about like the bigger names like Danielle Harris or Scout Taylor Compton, but the ones like Ellie Church and Haley. I can't remember her last name. Haley, who's been in a whole bunch of Dustin Mills films and stuff. And I wanted to get one of them involved because I thought that they would do a really good job of the part. And Ellie, I think, was only one of 2 girls that read for the part. And she really did a great job with it. And I was really excited. And I've always liked Ellie. And it gave us a great opportunity to work together. So she came up to Chicago. We shot her stuff in a day, I think. And the awesome thing about it is that it developed a great relationship working together on that. And immediately after that, I went to Ben, who was on set at that point because he was the new editor of Hog. And I was like, Ben, I had already pitched Ben the Skeletons in the Closet idea. And I was like, Ben, what do you think about Ellie as the widow? And he's like, dude, that's yes, exactly, 100%. And so then we pitched her on that. And at first she turned it down. She actually didn't want to be the widow. She thought she wouldn't be able to explore a character enough sitting on a couch. And I'm so glad I had a phone call with her for probably about 45 minutes, and I convinced her to play the widow, and I'm so glad she did. And I think she's really proud of that part too. But yeah, so we shot all that stuff in 4 years after the regular movie. Spent the next 2 years editing it and released it in, I think, 2019. It's cool. It's again, it's a movie I'm very proud of. Unfortunately, I had a falling out with the producer and with Ben, so I don't really tour and promote the movie with them or anything. And it's unfortunate because I'm very proud of what all of us created with that movie. But it holds a very special place in my heart, and I'm proud to have it as a part of my catalog.
Right. Well, that is unfortunate that happened, but I had to tell you how much I enjoyed the movie, because I know that we had talked previously about some of the stuff you were doing when you were working on it and really pushing that it was coming out for the release, and knowing how much time and effort and the work with Sid and everywhere there that you did. I just have to say it all came together, and I really enjoy it. I'm going to get a physical copy to keep in my collection just based on the fact that it's your work that's there. Well, it's going to sit right next to my other Scotchworthy stuff.
Very kind of you to say. I really sincerely appreciate your support of my catalog and how much you enjoy my work. And, I try and always throw as much credit as I can to my cast and crew, because I just have always been very fortunate to be surrounded by insanely talented people that just do a wonderful job of creating captivating stories, in my opinion. And, it's very impressive how a lot of these films come together and come together as well as they do, in my opinion. With the things that happen on them, from High on the Hog being two different stories as we were shooting, and having the producer walk off set 5 days in. And she was one of the actresses in the movie. So we had to reshoot scenes from that she was in that we already shot. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's like just one disaster after another. The first day of shooting The Rake, the wind blew our 25-foot crane over and broke Rob's Red camera, which was like, $50,000 camera. On the first day of shooting the movie. Talk about a bad omen. And Skeletons in the Closet. Skeletons in the Closet was 7 years in the making, basically, and wasn't even Skeletons in the Closet when it started. It was Chop Shop, something entirely different. And we were able to piece it together to be Skeletons. And it's slightly crazy and doesn't make 100% sense, but it is such a fun movie, and I'm so proud of it because it looks so good. And it's just entertaining if you're willing to pay attention to it and just get invested in the stories and the characters in it. So,
what does someone have to do to get killed in one of your movies?
It's funny because you get asked that question a lot when you're a horror director. And honestly, I tell people, look, as long as you show up when I call you and ask you to come, that's all that I require. The toughest thing at this point is just getting a movie made. And then just remembering all the people who have said, hey, will you please remember to hit me up? Like I have a list in my email inbox. I have like a specific folder of like cast and crew, people that have reached out to me over the years that say, hey, and it's a lot of like composers and VFX artists are the most popular, where they reach out and say, hey, or screenwriters, will you read my script, or, that type of thing. But
there's a part of me that wants to tell you a movie idea I have.
you're more than welcome to. I maybe not right now. I don't think we should, because I don't want you.
Absolutely not.
There. Don't get it out there into the universe without,
Nope. I understand the need to keep that away from the public.
Well, and the collective subconscious is a real kick in the dick. I have seen probably at least a half a dozen, if not a dozen, of my ideas get turned into relatively the same, if not the same movie by other people. And I didn't even talk about them to other people, to the people who made them. I look at them.
Interesting.
Like, 100%. The Void is legit. I was literally the movie I wanted to put Sid in that I was telling you about that I've been working on in the background for the last 6 years. I literally wanted to make a movie about that was basically like what The Void is, like Hellraiser meets meets The Thing, meets The Blob, meets Night of the Creeps, and it's like then The Void came out, and I'm like, God damn it, that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to make a movie I wanted to make like kind of like a Scanners type of movie, and then Joe Bagos came out with The Mind's Eye, and I was like, God damn it, and it's always the same time. I have an idea for a movie that I've had in my head for literally 10 years. I've got maybe 20 pages of the script written because I've just never dedicated time to getting it finished, even though I have majority of the plot in my head and I should write it. I watched Antlers, and Antlers is probably 85% that movie. The only difference is that it's a Wendigo in Antlers, and my idea is a different type of creature or killer. But it's insane. It's like you see that and it is so disheartening. And I'm not the only one that it happens to. It happens to people all the time. My buddy Jeremy, who co-wrote The Rake with me, hit me up a couple months ago and was like, that show on Amazon, I think it is, or Hulu, the 9 Perfect Strangers or something, or whatever it is.
Okay, I've heard of it. Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, he basically said that he was working on a script because my co-producers, Rob Stern and Sarah Sharp, they've been making a lot of movies over the last 3 years since we did Skeletons, and he was writing the script for them, and he was probably about 75-80% done with the script. And someone told him, you should check this show out on Hulu. And he went and watched it, and he's like, oh my God, that's literally my idea, including the twist. And it hurts, it sucks.
Wow. Well, even speaking to that point, it kind of goes back, even if you look back at Phantasm and the original Star Wars, I believe it was the original Star Wars, there's the Jawas and there's the little hooded demon-y things from Phantasm, and both guys are like, no, we really didn't know each other was working on the film and had these characters that look so damn similar.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that happen to just be in both movies, and everybody's like, oh, well, did this guy steal from this guy? And they're both like, no. We just happen to have the similar idea.
And you got to wonder, like, with like Armageddon and what was the other one that was like
Impact.
that?
Deep Impact.
Deep Impact, and then with Dante's Peak and Volcano coming out the same year, it's like, what are the chances 2 Volcano movies come out the same fucking year? And that might be studios fucking with each other, but I just think that it's the collective subconscious, and so you gotta watch that stuff. Gotta watch it, Leiann.
Yeah, I don't share it with anybody. Jeff knows what I'm talking about, and maybe 2 other people, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I won't say anything because it's not my place. But if you were to say something or even pitch it to somebody and they say no, you could have what happened. And I think Tony knows this story from a mutual friend of ours, Brian Wolford, who pitched an idea and was turned down.
Yeah.
And then that idea was essentially, I believe, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he is.
And I remember
so
he was
sore about
pissed. That. And I was like, he has every right to be.
Yeah. Well, in that, I mean, in his defense, I think it's bullshit that he would send Asylum the idea and then they would go and make the movie without talking to him or giving him any credit. I think that is legitimately stealing the idea, in my opinion, and they don't strike me as the type of company that that I don't know. I think it's bullshit, because I think he reached out to him after the fact and they denied that they ever saw his email with the idea in it or whatever. And it's like, that's stupid. But unfortunately, that's the name of the game. You can't do that stuff. You have to have non-disclosure agreements in place, and you have to protect yourself. And I've been screwed over so many times I can't even count on both hands, the number of times I've been screwed over, that you really gotta protect yourself, and you gotta bite the bullet and pay for a lawyer and all that bullshit that you shouldn't have to deal with when you just want to create art,
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Because I feel like, oh, my idea is unique, but then when you think about it, it really isn't at all. And so
let me guess, you want to make a movie about a bunch of camp counselors getting killed by a guy?
Not even close. Not even close. Not even close.
I was gonna say,
that
that's
was my
idea.
Damn it.
Yeah, shit.
No.
I shouldn't have said that out loud.
I can't even give a hint, because it would give like the whole concept away. So
No, we can talk sometime. You should try writing it.
That's what I'm thinking, because
easy,
I have different endings planned out already, and
start formulating an outline and see how it builds itself from there. It's actually very interesting. As much as I hate writing, like it's so tedious to me. At the same point in time, it's the satisfaction when you're finished writing something is so freaking awesome, So, and you've got
I'll
Jeff to
definitely
spitball
keep
with,
at it.
which is great. My wife is awesome to spitball with. I'm so grateful that she enlightens me with ideas and stuff, and she brings the female perspective to it a lot of times, which I think is great. So
that's basically what my thing is. It's from a female perspective.
Cool.
And it's not even necessarily horror. It's more, not even thriller. What would you categorize it as, Jeff?
Well, it's definitely got some drama elements to it, but it has thriller moments. It has things that could be considered horrific.
Sinister, like sinister intentions.
But I look at it this way. I feel horror is all up in the eye of the viewer. Because Although with some films, I downright will say, no, that's a horror film. Like anyone that comes to me and goes, oh, Silence of the Lambs is a crime drama. I'm like, it's a fucking horror movie. There is a guy skinning people and making skin suits based on Ed Gein. That is horror.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely consider Silence of the Lambs a horror movie, but I do believe it's also a crime movie because, like, look at Seven. Seven's not a horror movie, but it kind of is.
Right. It definitely has those horror
and
elements.
I'm noticing that there a lot of people have different definitions of what they deem as horror.
Yeah, definitely. Because you look at a movie like Seven, for example, because I think that's a good example because by and far people consider Silence of the Lambs a horror movie, but by and far I've not heard very many people consider Seven a horror movie. But they're basically the same thing. It's a procedural cop film about a serial killer being pursued. And it's interesting because where else would you place those in a video store if the video store was divided into genres, you know?
Right.
If video stores still existed.
They are few and far between.
Sad. Yeah, so sad.
Yeah, speaking of that, I remember there was a couple years ago I went by where our local one was, where as a kid I used to go and just look at all the VHS covers and stand in the horror section and just look at all the names and, rent video games and whatnot, and it was gone. And it really kind of hit me hard. I was like, oh man, that piece of my life is now gone forever. I only have the memories.
Yeah. It's incredibly depressing to think about. Like, when mine went out of business, I worked at 2 video stores when I was in high school. And when the first one I worked at went out of business, they were selling all their tapes, and they were doing, like, the first week, every tape was $10. The second week it was $9, and they went down by $1 each week. So it's like the catalog got more and more diminished, but if you held out, you could get them for a better deal. And it's like, I think back to being a teenager, or I don't remember how old I was when that happened, but I want to say it was definitely teenage years, probably right around college, because I remember bringing all my tapes to college with me, and I didn't have a lot of money at the time. I was making like $5 an hour because this is like 1997 probably. And so I just remember going there and being like, all right, I've got to be really selective because this week I've only got, $60 and it's $8 a tape. So I can only buy like 7 tapes, and, just like hoping like, oh my God, I hope that Puppet Master 2 is going to be here next week because I really want it,
Right.
But man, I got some gems when that happened, some real gems. And, like Silent Night, Deadly Night with the big box, and, yeah, Superstition. Have you ever seen that movie?
No.
Ooh. 80s supernatural slasher about a cursed land where this witch was burned, and then they threw her in this pond, and a couple hundred years later the church owns the property, and this priest and his family, or deacon or whatever, and his family move into the house and start getting killed off one by one by the witch that lives in the pond. It's batshit. There's crazy shit like somebody gets killed by like a possessed fucking circular saw blade that flies across the room. Another person gets killed by getting like stabbed in half. They literally get cut in half by a window that closes on them when they're trying to crawl out of a window. But it's just such a fucking great movie. Shit like that. I miss video stores.
I wrote that one down. I'm going to seek that one out.
Yeah, so it's around.
Nice.
Now, I got it on Blu-ray a couple years ago.
Oh, really? I'm at Blu-ray. Okay. See, it's weird when you find these smaller ones from the 80s that are on Blu-ray, because you would never think it would be on Blu-ray.
Well, but it's all these companies like Vinegar Syndrome and Arrow, and some of those other ones where they're going back and saying like, what can we pick up, like Spookies. Spookies is an example of like a movie that did really well in video stores because it had a great video cover. It's not a very good movie. It's completely weird and batshit, but it's got that nostalgic 80s feel to it that if you grew up watching it like I did, you love it. And it never was on DVD. I mean, I think it was on DVD, but it didn't really get the attention. And then one of those companies scooped it up, like Shout Factory or something, and released it on Blu-ray with this whole special edition and stuff. I actually just talked to one of the producers of that a couple weeks ago, interestingly enough, which was
nice.
Really fun. Yeah, it was cool. But yeah, stuff like that. I think those companies, they're just looking for opportunities to put that stuff out. Like all these companies like Mondo and Waxwork that are picking up all the soundtracks to these old movies and putting them on vinyl because they know people like me will buy the shit out of them.
Yeah. Final point I'll make on that. I'm actually holding in my hands right now from Synapse Films a Blu-ray special meltdown edition of Street Trash, which I still have not seen the movie, but I bought it because I heard people talking about how fucking weird it was. I was like, really I like weird 80s shit.
The really funny coincidental thing about that is that the guy I was talking to who produced Spookies was an actor in Street Trash.
How funny is that?
How coincidental is that?
Yeah. That is crazy.
Yeah. It's an interesting movie.
Now, I know Leiann is probably chomping at the bit here because she has some things she wants to say.
Sure.
So we both watched It's My Party and I'll Die If I Want To. And because I got the Fuck Start Your Face edition, we did the Choose Your Own Adventure version of the movie.
Awesome.
I'm going to turn it over to Leiann here. I'm going to turn it over to Leiann here because I've been talking a lot. I'm going to let her give her thoughts because in case you didn't hear me the last time, I fucking really enjoy It's My Party.
Thank you.
It's fun.
It's so much fun. So just a little bit about me. If you know me personally, when I wake up, I'm not in a good mood. I'm instantly angry if I'm woken up. And so today when I woke up from sleeping and Jeff was like, hey, let's put on this movie. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm watching this movie and I'm being so fucking sassy with it. And I'm having so much fun with it. And I'm laughing. And it really brightened up my day.
Oh, that's nice to hear. I appreciate that.
My very favorite part, Jeff, you might have to help me out with this, but the blood poof.
So it was one of the girls, I think it was the blonde girl. I can't remember all the characters' names. I know, I believe it was Sarah was the main character, I believe.
Yeah, Cassie's the blonde who blows up.
Cassie. Yes. That was the one that blew up. That was when she was sitting there and started like writhing and kind of having her moment. And the two girls are against the door and that blood cannon just shot at them. Leiann had me wind it back a couple of times to rewatch it.
I have a thing for projectile blood. Like it makes me so happy. And every time there would be projectile blood, I would just start cracking up. And that particular part, it's like a poof. Like almost like a mushroom that explodes. It just goes poof. And this like spray of blood just goes everywhere.
That's funny.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, that was I'll tell you, that was you should watch, since you've got the Fuck Start Your Face edition. You should watch the behind the scenes making of, because it's interesting to see what went into making that scene in particular. I think we shot that like 35 takes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was actually, we had to shoot it over 2 different nights, because the first night that we tried shooting it, my dad, when I was a kid, my dad, my brother, and I built a potato gun. Do you know what that is?
Vaguely.
I know what that is.
So you basically, Leiann, you take some PVC pipes and you put them together and you put an igniter in the bottom of it with like a cap that you screw on so that it's sealed, and you sharpen the far end of it, which is basically the end of the barrel, and you shove a potato on the sharpened end so that it basically like carves the potato down and sticks it into the top of the cannon, and then you spray like Aqua Net, hairspray into the bottom of it. You seal the cap up, and then you spark the igniter, and it lights the hairspray that's inside on fire and blows the potato. And I'm talking, when we used to shoot this thing, it would shoot 300-400 feet easily. I mean, this thing would fly. And so I thought, okay, when this girl blows up, we're going to do that. We're going to build a potato gun. We're going to put a garbage bag on the end of it instead of a potato. We're going to fill the garbage bag with a bunch of bloody bits, and we're going to just kind of have it at a slight angle aimed at these girls across the room and shoot it at them. And it just wouldn't work. It kept failing. The garbage bag would melt. There would be leaks. It would flop on the ground in front of it. It wasn't projecting at all. And then finally, after like 20 something tries or whatever, we took a bucket filled with blood and just stood off camera and threw the bucket at him. And I shit you not, the entire bucket literally went right between the girls' heads and hit the door behind them.
Oh no.
So
shit.
we had to stop one night because it was like 4 a.m. and the brunette had a test the next morning at like an 8 o'clock class because she was like a freshman at the college down the street. And so we had to stop. We went back a couple nights later and reshot it. And finally that last scene, and you'll see it in the behind the scenes if you happen to watch it. It's like I'm holding the camera, I'm shooting it. I'm like, okay, everybody's ready. Everybody's like, yeah, we're ready. I'm like, okay. And, action. We're shooting it. They're freaking out. Cassie's writhing. We're like, okay, countdown. 3, 2, 1. Boom. It fired. It actually worked. And I was like, everybody freeze. And I was like, I don't want to, because I was so scared that people were going to get excited that it worked, or that somebody was going to freak out, or that they were going to break character. And I was like, okay, girls. And they started freaking out and screaming and stuff.
No.
And we got it. And I was just like, thank fucking God. And then as soon as we said cut, everybody was jumping up and down. Even Sarah and Adrian and Darcy, they were jumping up and down and were so excited. And even though they were covered in blood, it was awesome.
That is fantastic. Oh my God. I love that there's a story to my favorite projectile blood moment.
Yeah,
and it's just a poof. It just
there's a lot of stories to that movie. I don't remember half of them because it was already that was 17 years ago. It's hard to believe.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I mean, ugh.
Yeah, that's why it looks the way it does. I shot it on standard definition right before high definition cameras became kind of the thing. But
hey,
a lot of people,
you worked with what you had. What do you expect?
Yeah.
You're working in such a dark environment. I really enjoyed it. I didn't see anything wrong with it.
I really want to remake it, and I want to shoot the sequel. You would die too if it happened to you.
And actually, Jeff told me that you felt that way, and I said that's because he's a true fucking artist. That's an artist right there. Let me go back and redo my last project.
I just think it'd be fun, and if I could get my buddy Rob to shoot it, it would look so good. And the sequel is so fun. The lead character, she basically, the night's not over, after everybody at the party gets possessed and killed by Burkett and all the monsters, she whittles her way through these creatures who are her friends with her katana sword and her martial arts skills, and comes out of the basement into the rainy night covered in blood, kind of like Andy Dufresne in Shawshank Redemption, when he's standing in the rain at the end.
That's so badass.
And then and then you fast forward to her sitting in the back of an ambulance, and there's 10 ambulances in front of Burkett Manor, and they're just wheeling bodies after body out of the house. And one of the paramedics gets possessed by Jacob Burkett's spirit that leaves Burkett's body and enters, or leaves the kid's body, Travis, who gets possessed, and enters the paramedic. And she's she's sitting in the back of the ambulance, and Darcy, the brunette, her friend Dee, shows up and starts talking to her, kind of like how Jack shows up in American Werewolf in London.
That's immediately what I started thinking of. I was like, oh, he's doing an American Werewolf in London thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And she progressively gets more decayed as she reappears to Sarah, as Sarah's pursuing, basically. So she's like, look, he's getting away. And Sarah looks and sees the paramedic and notices that there's something weird about him. He's got like the glowing green eyes, and no one else notices. And he gets in the ambulance and he leaves. He drives off, and she goes and grabs her katana out of the cop car that it's sitting in the front seat of, gets in her car and speeds away. And the ambulance crashes in front of a fraternity house that's having a Halloween party. The paramedic grabs the body of Burkett that's in the back seat in the back of the ambulance, and carries it in the body bag up into the fraternity house party. And everybody thinks it's a costume. And he goes upstairs and he possesses a girl who's dressed like the Bride of Frankenstein, and she turns into like this spider monster. It's just so cool. It would be so much fun. God, would I love to make that movie one day.
Oh man, I'm sitting here going, how can I gather money to be able to get this thing off the ground for you?
I know, right? I know. I would love to see that happen. And the sad thing is that it would cost a lot of money. It's like I made the first movie for $10,000, and I think about now how much money it costs to make a movie and make it look good, and it's just like Jesus. But yeah, it's insane.
It's nuts, man.
Yeah. I tried making the sequel in like 2008, 2009. No, it was like 2008. I tried making the sequel, and I was trying to raise $75,000, which I'm glad I didn't raise it, because it probably would have been a disaster. But we had the perfect house in Pittsburgh, in the suburbs of Pittsburgh, that these people were going to let us use. It was exactly what I wanted. My friend Adrian, who sadly has passed away since then, she was coming back as Sarah. It was going to be amazing. So now I just want the opportunity to remake it and dedicate it to her, and get some new fans on board for the It's My Party train, because it's a fun ride.
I really enjoyed her performance, and the toward the end when she's wearing that outfit, she's got the black hair and she's like covered in blood. I'm like, fuck yes.
Yeah, she did an awesome job. It was really fun, because I held 6 days of auditions at the Savini School, where I was going as an effects student, and I basically had my cast set in stone, and it was the 6th day, literally like the last hour before I was closing the doors on the auditions, and 4 girls came in, and it was the 3 main girls, Danielle, who plays Cassie, Darcy, who plays Dee, and Adrian, who plays Sarah, and then one of their friends, who was she was the stoner Little Red Riding Hood in the back of the red Grand Prix that drives off.
Okay.
So the 4 of them walked in, and I was just like, holy shit, wow, I'm completely recasting the entire movie. And thank God, because none of the other people that were going to play these roles were even remotely as good as I wanted them to be. But I was going to do it because I wanted to make a movie, and thankfully I got some good actresses, and it worked out, That's the interesting thing about all my films, is that there's like I said earlier, there's been so many problems with them, so many hiccups and hurdles, so many nights that I went home after shooting thinking, God, like, how is this going to finish? How are we going to make a movie and get it in the can? And they all end up coming together in the end. And just very proud of them. It's been some really cool experiences, and it sucks that I haven't made a movie in 4 years. I'm really excited to get behind the camera again, hopefully soon.
I'll tell you this, my rewatch of It's My Party this time was a little bittersweet, because I saw your post about Adrian last year, and it sucks, but at least there's that performance. And I know she did other things, but as far as I know her from is Sarah, the badass martial artist who kicked a lot of ass, and she owned that role. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you ever get around to remaking it, you got to find someone with that type of personality and that type of I don't know, that spark that she had. And I know you will, because you're going to seek out the right people to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a little bittersweet. And I know I didn't know her, but knowing that someone who gave such a strong performance in this film isn't going to be there for a sequel, or won't be there for, maybe a cameo in a remake or whatever. It's just sad, but I'm glad her legacy as Sarah will live on in this film.
Yeah. I say that too, and I always remember that when I think about it, because I get sad. I'm sad right now thinking about her. She was 35. That's tragic. Like, you can't think about losing somebody that young. And it was just such a devastating, surprise to me. But the really wonderful thing about it all is that we reconnected, like right around COVID, the start of COVID, and we had a couple of really good conversations, spitballing about some movie ideas, because her and I used to do that all the time, 15 years ago, and we hadn't talked for the better part of, I don't know, probably 6-7 years. And so we rekindled our communication and had some good phone calls. And then we did, at the beginning of COVID, Rob and I did a couple of watch parties on Facebook and YouTube. And we did an It's My Party watch party. And it was awesome, because we brought back Adrian and Danielle and Darcy and Steve, who was my co-producer on it. And there was like 6 or 7 of us on. And it was just so much fun having everybody on there, and Adrian was on there. And so I think it was really awesome that everybody got, an opportunity to just kind of see her and reminisce about the movie. As crazy, stressful, and shitty as it was making It's My Party, we still had a hell of a lot of fun making that movie, because we were all just a bunch of kids fucking around, getting covered in blood.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sucks. I always wanted her to play the mom in the remake, now that she's older. But at least I can dedicate it to her if I ever get a chance to remaking it. So
right. And I didn't mean to drag everyone down with the sadness, but I mean, it is the reality of the situation.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
Wow, Jeff, it's usually me that brings the podcast down. It's usually me.
No, I think
that
the
is
great
true.
thing about it is just being able to talk about her and remember her like that, and like Jeff said, having the memory of her, eternally from her on this video, and you can watch it whenever you want. And I hope that the people who care about her do watch it, because I think she did a great job. As hokey and silly of a movie as it is, I thought she gave it her all. And
I was just thinking the same thing. I bet it's a great thing for her family and loved ones to be able to have that piece of her.
Yeah. I definitely think so. So, but yeah, hopefully one day we can get that remake done and the sequel. It'd be a lot of fun.
I'll tell you this: if we're still doing this fucking show when you get that going, you let me know. I'll have you on here to promote the fuck out of it. Guaranteed. You got an open invitation to come back here to promote whatever you're doing.
Well,
and
we got to
just
promote.
Come on, whenever, to talk about horror in general.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I'm down to do that whenever. You just got to let me know when you want me to come on, and if I'm free, we'll do it. But we gotta talk about the stuff I'm doing now, because
yes, I wanted to lead into that, because we're getting a little off track. But you've been working with Bloody Disgusting. You were helping to usher in something to Screambox. Bloody Bites, which is with Bloody Disgusting. You know what, Tony? Let us know what's going on here, because there's so much interesting stuff, and I saw your posts about it before you reached out to see about coming on. I want you to let us know what's going on with Bloody Bites and Bloody Disgusting and all that.
So, back in 2016, my partner with World of Death, Jim and I, we created this show, World of Death, which basically was showcasing short horror films from around the world. And Bloody Disgusting picked it up, and because I've been friends with the guys who run Bloody Disgusting for since 2009 now. And so I went to them. I said, guys, I've got this idea for the show. what do you think? And they're like, yeah, we'll throw it on our YouTube channel and stuff. And so we aired over 200 episodes of World of Death. We featured over 500 short films, and they were from more than 50 countries. So we created a really awesome community of independent filmmakers that I'm really proud of. And when Bloody Disgusting, they teamed up with Cinedigm, which is this huge media, conglomerate company, like Viacom and the like. They teamed up with them to create a Roku channel called Bloody Disgusting TV. And so they came to me and said, Tony, we want to create a new evolution of World of Death. Like, we either want to bring World of Death over and do something different with it, or do something new. And so we basically came up with Bloody Bites, which is similar to World of Death. It's a 30-minute episode. We feature typically between 1 and 3 short films per episode. This is some of the highest quality, best looking shorts that are out there right now. And from some of the awesomest, up and coming filmmakers out there that you have or haven't heard of. And so we air through Bloody Disgusting TV, which is on Roku TV. If you go to the Roku app and you go to Roku channel, it's one of the channels on Roku channels app. You can also find Bloody Bites through Sling. You can find it on Pluto. And then Cinedigm also bought Screambox with the intention of competing with Shudder. And so the awesome thing is that since Cinedigm bought Screambox, they also, in October of last year, acquired Bloody Disgusting. They actually bought Brad and Tom out of owning Bloody Disgusting, which is huge for those guys because they built that website up over the last 20 years, and they're still running it, but Cinedigm now owns it. And so being under this big umbrella, Cinedigm is like, look, we want Bloody Disgusting. We want you guys to be the curators and creators of our horror content, and so that's where they have started bringing all this stuff onto Screambox. And the intention over the next few years is to slowly start building original programming and original films that we produce in-house, and then also bring, distribute and curate stuff like Bloody Bites, where we're giving independent filmmakers an avenue to showcase their work to the masses, through a name like Bloody Disgusting, which, everybody, if you know horror, Bloody Disgusting. So
yeah, Bloody Disgusting was one of the first horror sites I started reading back in the day when the internet became a thing and you could find all this kind of stuff, and they're reporting on everything. They were the first site that I bookmarked and was going to. So to see where they are now from where they started is impressive.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, like, I still remember it was The Ruins. When they were showing the trailer on TV, I saw a quote from Brad Miska, who's one of the 2 guys who runs Bloody Disgusting, on that trailer. And I was like, holy shit, I know that guy. I was like, that is so weird to see his name and a quote from him up on the TV screen. And now it's just like, if you're a horror fan, you know what Bloody Disgusting is.
Right.
Between Fangoria and Dread Central, Bloody Disgusting, I think those are the top 3 of the tripod when it comes to horror news and information. So I'm just very excited to be a part of it. The guys have basically talked to me about, I started as the short film curator for Bloody Disgusting, and now they're talking to me about kind of evolving my role to also go to film festivals and develop relationships with not only festival directors, but also filmmakers, to acquire the content and curate it through the channel and Screambox, as well as then help produce the original content, which is really exciting. We're talking about doing a remake or a sequel of Skeletons in the Closet. We're talking about, eventually trying to turn that into a series if we can make that happen. then just onward and upwards from there. So it's all very exciting, and it's in the infancy stages right now, but I'm really stoked about it. And if you've got Roku or Pluto or Sling, I highly recommend checking out Bloody Bites if you can find it, because there's some really cool short films on there that are very entertaining. And Bloody Disgusting TV is fun too. I program the 24/7 schedule, and it's basically like a regular cable channel, like Sci-Fi or TBS or whatever, where it's got commercials that play, every 10 to 15 minutes. But and it's edited like a cable channel, which kind of sucks. It's not like Tubi, where it's unedited, but they can still get away with pretty much everything. You just can't show nudity and profuse gore. But we've got a lot of cool movies on there. The Collector's on there, and for a while we had the VHS trilogy and Day of the Dead and Audition, and Reanimator's on there. A couple of really good oldies like Popcorn and Madman, and so there's a lot. And since I'm such a big fan of 70s, 80s horror, I try and program a lot of that into, especially like the after dark kind of late night programming. Galaxy of Terror, Piranha, so it's, to me, what it is it's my buddy Patrick Rea, who's a filmmaker out of Kansas City, says it best. He puts it on in the background because he always wants something on the TV, just kind of in the background while he's working. And Bloody Disgusting TV is a great thing because it's just constant. You don't have to figure out what to put on next. It's just constantly playing something. And I do my best to program stuff that's entertaining, even if it's not, a movie I personally like. Like, I hate The Collector. I think it's the stupidest fucking movie ever made. But but it's entertaining. So, I like putting that up there.
Yeah. The Collector is yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. It's entertaining, but it's not something I'm gonna put on. But if I get a Roku and go to that channel and it's on, I'm not gonna change it. I'll be like, well, I'm sure there's something on after this. It's gonna be even better. So it's really exciting that you're doing this.
Yeah, it's super cool, and it's a great second job, because I'm getting paid to work with these guys who run, again, one of the largest horror websites in the world, and are producing stuff and are a household name for horror. And so I'm excited to be working next to these guys on a lot of these things, and it's just cool to be involved with programming the channel and everything, and helping hopefully build that up to be a popular source for people to get their daily ingestion of horror. So I'm definitely excited about the opportunities that they've given me, and I appreciate it. And that's why I just want to promote it, because I think it's a really cool thing. And Bloody Bites, like I said, it's a cool show. I think it's got a lot of really great content. So
yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't able to find it when I went on Pluto. I went to Pluto TV through my PS4 because that's how I do all my streaming.
Okay.
I wasn't able to find it, but I am going to seek it out. If it means having to go get, a Roku stick or whatever, then so be it, so I can check it out. But if anyone out there does watch things on Pluto, just keep an eye on those horror channels, because I'm sure it's going to cycle through. You're going to see Bloody Bites and watch it. Support what these guys are doing. And
I appreciate that, Jeff. I don't know if it's on the on-demand part of Pluto, or if that's Sling. I think that's on the Pluto that you can watch on demand, or if it's just on the horror channels. But it's funny, because for the longest time I was like, I don't need a Roku. What the hell's a Roku? Why do I need that? I've got cable, I've got Netflix, I got Amazon Prime. I've got a Plex, and my buddy let me use his Plex library. So what do I need any of that for? I'll tell you what, getting a Roku was one of the smartest things I ever did. And I got one because when we're moving next week, and at our new house, I specifically wanted to put a TV in the garage, because I figured if I'm ever hanging out in the garage or whatever, I'd love to have something on the TV. And a lot of our neighbors there seem to hang out kind of in the front yards. And so I was like, it'd be great to have a TV. And the guy who was trying to get me to pay him a shit ton of money to wire my house up with all the technology that I didn't want to pay for was like, you only need one cable box, because now you have an app on a Roku that you can get your Comcast or whatever your cable network is on the Roku. So you can literally, instead of paying rent on extra cable boxes in every room of your house, you just buy the one-time $40 charge for a Roku player, and you can put a Roku on every TV, and then it has all your streaming platforms on it, nicely organized, including your cable. And you can access your cable box from your Roku. So I was like, dude, that's awesome. And you don't have to run a cable wire to your TV. You can just hook it up with your Wi-Fi.
I did not know that. I knew about all the different channels Roku has. My parents at their place, they have a Roku TV because they were looking to get a TV to have out in the backyard for when they have people over for barbecues and whatnot, to be able to put on like the baseball game or just have on in general.
Yeah.
And they were looking. I said, look, you want to get a decent one, get a Roku TV. It's going to have everything you need for streaming. It's going to be a smart TV, and it's the better option for you. They got it. And of course, I was over there and I was setting it up, and I was like, oh, Shout Factory TV? You mean I can find Mystery Science Theater? Okay. Oh, there's this horror channel. There's this horror channel. And I think this was before Bloody Disgusting had their TV. Otherwise, I'd have it on there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really cool. And it's just, it makes it organized, which is really great because I've got Shudder, Hulu, Amazon, Netflix, the Plex, like I said, Comcast as our cable server. So it's like, HBO Max, Disney Plus. So it's like you can literally go on there and just find it all. So I don't even get paid by Roku. I should, but it's just super convenient. And then that way you don't have to worry about, you have it on all your TVs, which is awesome. So
right now, is Screenbox also available through Roku?
Yes. Yeah, you can get the app on Roku.
Okay, I wasn't sure of that because I know you could get the app on like pretty much any mobile device. I wasn't sure if it was available through Roku. Now I know you were talking about you were part of how do I put this? Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words here. I believe there was a festival where you helped usher out the release of the documentary for the 1998 miniseries.
Yeah. So since Panic Fest, Adam Roberts, who's one of the guys who runs Panic Fest in Kansas City, which in my opinion is one of the top tiered, like B-level genre fests. What I mean by B-level is, you look at like Sundance and South by Southwest and Toronto International and Fantasia, and those are your A-level festivals. Those are the big guys. Right. And then your B-level festivals that have notoriety, that are still, they're worthy of praise when you get into them, are Panic Fest and Genre Blast and Nightmares Film Festival, ones like that. And so they reached out to me, and because I've known Adam from World of Death and whatnot, and we have mutual friends, and he's like, I know you work for Bloody Disgusting. I would love to try and get a partnership developed for our festival and see if we can get some of the stuff that you guys have on Screenbox involved, namely that Pennywise documentary. And so I talked to Tom at Bloody Disgusting, and we were able to get that set up, and that's kind of what ushered in the idea for them to have me step up as kind of this festival, liaison, I guess is how I would deem the title for the job. And so I'm really excited about that because, the film festivals are so much fun to be a part of, and the networking that's involved at film festivals is how a lot of people that are where they are in the business are where they are. And so the idea to be on the ground, shaking hands and bullshitting with people over a couple of drinks at the bar after watching their movie, with the name Bloody Disgusting behind me, to say, hey, we're interested in your movie, what's going to take to get it on Screenbox and Bloody Disgusting TV. I think that's really exciting. And it's a great, right now is a really great climate for independent filmmakers in the horror genre because they're content hungry. Distributors need good content.
Right.
Because COVID really prevented people from making movies for a while. So it's pretty exciting. And so yeah, so we basically got that set up where they're gonna play the Pennywise documentary, which I'm really bummed I can't be there next weekend because I work, but it's this next weekend, and they talked about apparently Bloody Disgusting or Cinedigm actually has one of the screen worn costumes that Tim Curry wore as Pennywise.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and I really wanted to like drive that down to Kansas City for the weekend and like, have that there and represent Bloody Disgusting with that. And unfortunately I work Saturday and Sunday, so I can't, and I'm moving on Thursday, so it's just too hectic for me. But yeah, it's pretty exciting, and regarding Screenbox, like I'm not even going to recommend getting a membership right now. I would wait a half a year to a year just because there's really nothing on there right now that's any good. And I'm not, that's me as a horror fan. I mean, they need to build up their catalog, and we've all talked about that, and that's what we're working on doing now. If you go back to the infancy stages of Shudder, it didn't have anything very good on it either. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah, but as it got members and as it built up money, and as AMC started seeing that it actually, because that's owned by AMC, the channel, not the theaters.
Right.
But, as they started seeing, oh shit, there's actually a lot more dedicated horror film fans out there than we thought, then they started pumping more money into it to finance the acquisitions of movies, and then they started, original productions of stuff. And my friends have a couple of movies that are being released through Shudder, and it's pretty exciting because they're building the network with the distributors that is going to help, us produce movies and stuff. But yeah, I think and we've talked about it. I think in a year to a year and a half, I really think Screenbox is going to have some awesome original content that people are going to only find there exclusively. And so I'm pretty excited to be a part of the ground floor, of it all.
Well, it sounds awesome, but I know I remember looking at Screenbox early on. I heard it recommended on a podcast. They're like, check it out. They've got a few things on there, and it was bare bones at the time. And this is, and I was like, and I don't even think there was a charge at the time for Screenbox. I think it was free because they were getting such smaller productions at the time, more like indie fare. Because we know there's independent movies, and then there's there's the real and this is not a detriment to anything you do, but I feel like you're a real independent filmmaker. Like, you're going out there, you're shooting late hours, whereas there's other guys who are like, oh, I'm an indie filmmaker. Every film I've made has had a budget of, $3.5 million. I'm like, could you do that for 10 grand and still get the same thing done? I don't think so.
Yeah.
But, and like I said, that's not to disparage you or talk down to you. I love what you do. That's the kind of indie filmmaking I like, is like nose to the grindstone. We're going to get together. We're going to have fun. We're going to get through this shit that we may deal with, but we're going to make this fucking movie. And I remember the early days of Shudder too, not having a whole lot either.
No, definitely not. And yeah, I think that there's, there are definitely tiers of quality in independent horror. There's people, talk about the different levels of horror, and you talk about the $5,000 features, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's great if my first movie was a $10,000 feature. So, there's nothing wrong with making a movie for no money. I think the biggest thing is just, people putting in the time and effort that if you're going to make a horror movie, to make a good horror movie, like study horror and be a fan of the genre. Because I think that more often than not, people are either lazy or they don't like horror movies and they try and make one because they think they're going to make it successful, because horror is typically a successful genre. But, I think that that's the thing. I've seen plenty of $10,000 features that were amazing, because they were good and because the people who made them cared and put heart and effort into the movie, and sometimes that's, in fact, I think that's completely more important than money. We made Skeletons in the Closet for sub $20,000, and I think that movie looks incredible, and that's all because Rob and Dave and Jim and Kiko and all the guys that are a part of my camera and lighting team are just so freaking good at what they do that, you know, they make everything look like $1 million. And, you know, production design and the actors and special effects and everything, you know, it all matters. And if a guy says, or a girl, if a person says, I want to go out and I want to make a horror movie, and I got my mom's video camera, I've got my iPhone 11, and I got my mom's backyard, and there's woods in the backyard, and I'm going to go shoot a movie out there in the woods. Great. Awesome. But study up, take some time, prepare. You know, you can never take enough time to prepare and make it look good. You know, don't just go out and shoot. I mean, you can. There's nothing wrong with practicing, but if you want to make something that truly looks good and that entertains people and keeps their attention, which I think is the biggest feat nowadays, is keeping an audience's attention. You know, you got to make it good, and that takes effort. So.
It really does. It really does. Yeah. Now, Leiann, I know we've just kind of bogarted the conversation here, but do you have anything you'd like to ask Tony?
No, not really. No, not questions or anything, but what you guys are talking about, that's why I find it hard to give shitty reviews when we do movies, because I know how much hard work and dedication and blood, sweat, and tears goes into putting a movie together. The movies I shit on are higher budget films where people are just in it to make money. And I like, I'll just give an example, like Bird Box. Not a fan.
Yeah, I never even watched it. I hated
A Quiet Place.
So.
Fucking yes, I fucking hate that movie so much.
Yeah, me too. Me too. 5 minutes into it, I was like, this is the dumbest fucking movie I've ever seen.
By the time I got to the end, I was like, are you fucking shitting me right now?
I'm like they're walking down the path. The 9-year-old son is in the back. Why in the hell would you let your 9-year-old son, if you're in a world infested with monsters, why would you let your 9-year-old son head up the rear of your train where you're walking cross country to wherever destination you're going? Why would you let your kid be the one in the back? You should have your kid in the middle.
Would they? And the fact that they got rid of like one of the best characters, Jeff, what was that actor's name?
John Krasinski that played the father?
No,
Oh, you're going back to Bird Box here. You're going back to Bird Box.
Yeah.
I haven't.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were still talking about A Quiet Place, which, quick note, I actually do like A Quiet Place, but I realize not every film is for everybody. Tony, if that changes your opinion of me, then I am sorry.
No. I mean, clearly it's got an audience. I mean, that movie made a shit ton of money, and the sequel made a shit ton of money. It's
right.
I don't like when characters in horror movies are stupid. You know, like
yes.
like if you want to make a movie about people going into space and the people in space make stupid decisions because they're normal human beings, that's fine, because none of us are fucking rocket scientists. We're not going to know how to do that stuff. But when you're like talking about a normal human being in a world where horror movies exist, because horror movies exist, they're like Mickey Mouse. You can't say that they don't exist in a movie. I mean, that's just weird if they don't. How is a character not watched a horror movie? Like, you know, and that's where I was like, okay, so you've got this gimmick where you can't make any noise in the movie, and that's okay. It's an interesting enough gimmick. I like John what's his face enough, because I was never a fan of The Office, but I like him enough. He seems like a cool guy, so I'll watch the movie. And I watch it, and 5 minutes into it, they're walking down that path, and they've got their 9-year-old son leading up the back of the walk, and the kid sets off that toy and gets killed by a monster. And I'm just like, that's what you get for letting your kid walk in the back. You fucking deserve it because you're a terrible parent. You know,
I don't like when. For me, I don't like when there's something so fantastical happening, but there's zero explanation. Like these monsters. I need to know more.
Sure.
Where did they
Yeah.
come from? What happened?
Yeah.
How
I wonder
long
if they
ago did
explain
this
that in the
happen?
second
Like,
one.
I don't know. I refuse to watch it.
Same
I haven't
here.
seen the
But
second. I haven't seen the second one, but from what I have heard and what I've surmised from the trailers I've seen, they do give somewhat of an explanation as to what happened, where they came from, and when they showed up.
they should not need a sequel to explain a story.
Oh, I agree completely. I agree 100%. There
So
was a
I have
movie
no
that came out.
problem. I have no problem shitting on the higher end movies like that because the writing is just stupid. But for the lower budget movies, they worked really, really hard. And so I'm not going to shit on them at all. If the story is good, then I'm all in.
See, and I kind of take it from a different perspective where I like separate my horror fandom versus my filmmaker mentality. And so I'll watch an independent movie or even just a big budget movie. And I'll say, okay, well, as a filmmaker, it was very well done, but I didn't like it as an audience member. Or the flip side, it was very poorly
I feel the
produced,
exact same way.
Yeah. So,
There's the part of me that wants to say I didn't like it. I did not like this movie. But the other part of me wants to say it was very well done. The actors were great. It was well shot, etc., etc.
yeah, I agree.
Like Rosemary's Baby. I don't like it. I didn't have a good time watching it, but I appreciate everything that went into it. So I will say it is a good movie. I don't like it, but it's a good movie.
Never seen it. Just seems too boring for me.
It is. Oh my God.
It is a slow movie. I enjoy it just because I like a slow burn every now and then, but it's definitely not for everyone.
Yeah.
And I know, Leiann, circling back to what you were saying about Bird Box real quick, the character you were referring to was played by the actor Lil Rel Howery, who was in Get Out, played the best friend of the main character. He was the writer who was giving all these theories as to what was happening.
He was such an amazing character, and they got rid of him. They were like, no, we want to keep Sandra Bullock. Let's keep her walking.
Frowning.
I heard so many people talking about, oh, Bird Box, you really need to watch it. It's this cool movie. Leiann watches it, tells me about it, and goes, oh my God, this movie is stupid. I'm like, well, then let's watch it. I gotta form my own opinion.
Yeah.
I didn't mean for this to become like anti-Bird Box.
But that's the crazy.
It was so. Go ahead.
I didn't even want to watch it because I didn't like A Quiet Place. But that's the crazy thing about the horror genre is that you get people who are like passive horror fans, and like they'll see a movie like that and be like, oh, it was a really good horror movie. And then they tell everybody and their mother about it. And then it becomes popular and successful because everybody sees it. And it's like that just further reaffirms my belief that if you have money behind and networking behind getting your movie distributed, you will be successful. Because I think the biggest reason why so many independent movies are not successful is because they don't get out there well enough. You get a shitty distributor who doesn't promote it at all and doesn't know how to promote it and doesn't care to promote it or put money into promoting it. And they get it on Amazon Prime and they get it on Tubi, and that's it. And then it dies there in the swamp that is streaming, platforms. And it's like if these companies, if these distributors would just put a little bit of effort into putting some of these movies onto a pedestal and saying, look, we want to promote this movie, it would be amazing to see what other films would be more successful. Like I look at like Hereditary, and I think Hereditary is a bag of dog shit. I think it's so stupid and boring, and I just don't understand why people love it. And I think Midsommar is even worse. And yet that guy is like the horror filmmaker, and
it's funny that you say that, because we actually have 2 episodes where we cover Midsommar, and in part 2, It's me, Jeff, and our friend Patrick French. And Patrick French feels the exact same way that you do. He fucking hates it.
It's elevated horror. It's too lofty and heady for me. I'm not interested in trying to find the cerebral meaning behind a horror film. I want to watch a horror film like Friday the 13th Part 6. I want to watch a horror film like The Thing. I want to watch a horror film like Piranha. You know, I don't want to go into a horror movie unless, and it's not that I don't like cerebral horror films. You know, I like a lot of Cronenberg stuff. I like The Shining. Right. I like fucking, you know, I like a lot of, Robert Egger. Is that his name or whatever? I like his stuff.
Robert Eggers, The Witch.
Yeah.
The Lighthouse.
I hate the dialogue in The Witch because I don't understand a word they're saying, but I think The Witch is a really well-made, low-budget movie, and The Lighthouse is good. It's boring as fuck, but I really like it for some odd reason. I really, really like it.
It has hilarious moments. Leiann, go ahead. Lighthouse, go, Leiann.
Nope, she's done. She gave up. She said, fuck you guys.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good. You're back.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, thanks. Great. I don't know what I was saying.
The Lighthouse.
Oh, yeah, it's boring, but I love it. Like, I fucking love it a lot, but it's boring, but I love it.
For some reason, it's captivating.
Yeah. I'm really excited. I want to see the Northman, or the Norseman, whatever it is. My wife and I don't think we've been to what's the last movie we saw in the theater? It wasn't Dr. Sleep. It was Underwater, right? So we haven't been to the theater in like almost 2 years, I'd say, which is weird for me. But I just haven't had an interest. I'd rather and lay on the couch and, you know, and get up and pee when I have to pee and make popcorn and all that fun stuff. But I really want to see Batman, and I want to see Everything Everywhere All at Once, and I really want to see the Northman.
Yeah, the Northman looks interesting.
We do have a suggestion for you. We have a suggestion. We really liked The Platform.
The Platform, what's that?
A Spanish film on Netflix.
Oh, the one on Netflix, yeah.
Yeah, and I won't say any more than that, because if I give too much away...
I know what it's about.
Okay. Yeah, I went into it not knowing anything. Leiann had watched it. She brought it to me, and she goes, you need to watch this. And we watched it actually for an episode of the podcast, and I really enjoyed it. Because it was something different, but it wasn't overly cerebral like Ari Aster and his bullshit. I'm gonna say it outright.
I don't disagree with you.
It was definitely a fun watch.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'll get around to it eventually. The plot didn't interest me enough to want to watch it. I felt like it was like Cube, you know, to a degree, meets like Battle Royale kind of thing, and I just wasn't really interested. But I'll definitely give it a watch at some point. So I don't know. I've got a handful of movies I still have to watch that I'm excited to get around to. So
we all have those movies where like, this is what I need to watch first. Everything else is on the back burner until I get to it, and I'll get to it when I get to it. So totally understand. And like I said, every movie isn't for everyone. You may watch it and go, well, that was dog shit.
Yeah.
Or you can watch it and go, I can see the point. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. I like Cube. I thought Cube was good, so it seems a little like Cube, but it also seems like Squid Game, and I thought Squid Game was a bag of shit.
Fair enough. I enjoyed Squid Game for what it was. You know,
go ahead.
Go ahead. After you, sir.
I mean, I've been doing all the talking. I feel bad. I just like, I look at the Squid Game and like the part where they were on the bridge, the glass bridge. That was cool. You know, the first game where they had the giant like red light, green light, and all the people were getting shot because it was the first game. I was like, all right, that's cool. But everything else in that show was stupid. And I thought the twist with the old man was stupid. And I don't know. It was just, it's for people to be like, oh my God, you have to watch it. You have to watch it. I'm like, motherfuckers, will you just wake the fuck up? Go back 25 years and watch Battle Royale, for Christ's sake. because it's infinitely better than the Squid Game is, you
Right.
know? And it's like you're giving all the credit to this idea that was made 25 years ago to this show that's on Netflix, and the only reason why people love it is because it's on Netflix, you know?
Right. And I think that goes back
I'm
to what
sorry.
you were saying.
I'm over here. I'm over here laughing my ass off on mute because I love when people are so like angry and upset over something that other people love. I think it's hilarious. Like when Pat was getting mad about Midsummer, I was cracking up the whole episode.
I get very and I'm not going to go on a whole thing about this. I actually should be getting off here in a minute because my wife and I still have to have dinner. But
For sure.
But I have a very, and this isn't me as a filmmaker, this is me as a fan. I have a very big distaste and like bad taste in my mouth for just the climate of a chunk of the horror genre right now. I feel like a lot of horror movies are being made for the wrong reasons, and I feel like a lot of horror movies are being made that aren't really horror movies, and it just irritates the shit out of me because as a horror fan, you know, the movies that I grew up watching that made me the fan that I am, they don't exist anymore, and there's no reason why they can't still exist. In my opinion, you can have a world where both types of horror films exist. You can have the heady, lofty, fucking hipster horror movies like The Lighthouse and The Witch, and It Follows, for all intents and purposes, is in that category, even though I do like It Follows. You know, you can have those for those types of people. Get Out is a great example. I didn't like Get Out because it's the Stepford Wives with a slightly different context to it. But, you know, otherwise it's the Stepford Wives, plain and simple. And no one can argue that. You know, it's the same thing that I used to say, as much as I love House of a Thousand Corpses, it's my favorite Rob Zombie movie to this day. But it is a blatant ripoff of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And it's 100%. Like, yes. And so I have a problem with people giving credit to things that are blatant ripoffs. Like when I talk about It's My Party, I say it's an homage to Night of the Demons, Creepshow, and Evil Dead. I wasn't trying to make something wholly original there. I was using those movies as inspiration, and I directly give nods to those movies as a result. But to me, there are like these people that try and like create like this notion that their film is this original film, and it's a complete ripoff of something that was done 20 years ago before millennials were watching movies because they weren't born yet. So that's my little 2-minute rant for Leiann about, you know, how much I despise half of the horror genre right now. But then there's the other half that excites me. You know, I'm really eager to see some of the new stuff coming out. That seems to be pretty awesome with great atmosphere, or is really exciting and funny, or scary but has action in it. Cool characters.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah. So I wish that there were more people with money out there who were interested in giving opportunities to people to just, you know, make movies like that. You know, like for example, we have a script for the feature-length version of The Muck. And, you know, The Muck is a 6-minute little short film that we did. There's not much to it. It's basically just a scene from the feature length of the movie. But The Muck is basically if the Blob was attacking a neighborhood in the 1980s. And it's like, what horror fan wouldn't want to watch that movie? So why is it so hard to get the money for that movie? I don't know. You know,
I'd be there to watch it.
Exactly.
So like, would I, because The Blob is one of my favorite movies.
100%. I wholeheartedly agree. And
let me clarify. She means the 80s Blob, not the original.
Yes.
100%. Even though the 50s Blob is cool too, or 60s.
Yeah, I enjoy the 50s Blob. I've not seen Beware of the Blob, but the original Blob with Steve McQueen, and then the remake, which just Darabont was like, "Oh, you think you know what the Blob is? Well, here you go. Here's some real fucked up shit that's gonna happen."
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. Such a great 80s horror movie. and it should be. I mean, Darabont's great, you know, and Ken Russell, who was behind it as well. You know, they've both done some pretty awesome stuff. But yeah, you know, that's an example of something. And I'm not saying, I mean, it's mine, so obviously I'm going to rant and rave about it because I love it. But you know, I have a lot of friends who have really awesome ideas for movies that I would love to see get made, and it's just a matter of finding the money. So hopefully one day these people with the money will wake up. You know, maybe Jeff Bezos is a fucking horror fan and says, hey, here you go, here's a bunch of money to make horror movies. I don't know. He's probably too busy he's too busy making penis missiles to go to the moon.
Are alien automatons horror fans? I'm not sure. He doesn't seem human to me in any way.
Oh, beats
But,
me. I have no idea. All those guys, they have too much money to be human.
Yeah, no shit. Oh, anyway, Tony, I know you and your wife have to go get dinner, but I wanna thank you so much for coming on here. It's been a blast, man. It's been too long, and like I said, I don't know you personally, but man, I consider you a friend. I'm going to support the work you do. I'm definitely going to support what you're doing with Bloody Disgusting and Screambox, all that kind of stuff. And I hope we get to hear about another movie coming from you soon, brother.
I sincerely appreciate all those kind words. It really means a lot to me. You know, I always try and say that to people that, you know, if it wasn't for you guys, that we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And I miss it. So, you know, I hope to be able to give you something new soon. I'm definitely excited about what Bloody Disgusting's got going on. And I'm excited about what my friends have going on and what I've got going on. And hopefully in the next couple of years, we've got some new stuff for you from Scotchworthy. And it means a lot to me that you say what you say. And I consider you a friend as well. And, you know, it's the great thing about social media and about the internet is that, you know, you meet people across the country and you have similar interests and you become friends because of it. And now you're helping me promote my stuff. And I really appreciate that. So thank you for having me on. And Leiann, thanks for watching the movies as well. And for the compliments, I appreciate talking to you too.
Well, you've been an absolute delight on multiple levels. You've been such a treat to talk to.
Thank you. That's sweet of you to say.
So, that being said, Tony, I'm going to let you go here. Are there any links, anything you want anybody to go check out that you want to promote here? Also, if you send those over to me, I'll include them in the show notes so everybody will be able to find that stuff there. I know I believe it's scotchworthy.com.
Yeah. Bottle of Scotch worthy, like we are not worthy. My wife hates it when I say that.
I love it because that's how I remember it, and that's how I tell people if I'm ever pointing them your direction.
There you go. Scotchworthy.com. I'm on Facebook under Tony Wash. I don't really use Scotchworthy's Facebook page. Scotchworthy's got an Instagram. I think it's 200 Proof Tear is the Instagram account, and got a YouTube channel. It's Scotchworthy TV. I've been slowly, very, very slowly uploading all our catalog of World of Death episodes to Scotchworthy TV's YouTube channel. So you can check that out there. But yeah, otherwise just check out Roku or Pluto or Sling or Screambox for Bloody Bites and Bloody Disgusting TV. And, you know, my friends Rob and Sarah have a movie called Revealer coming out on Shudder, I believe, in a couple of months. It's premiering at Panic Fest this weekend, which is pretty cool. My wife and I think, are actually going to watch it tonight because we got a link for it, so I'm excited about that.
Nice.
And it's like an 80s movie about a stripper and a religious girl who is protesting outside of the video store where the stripper is dancing in a peep show booth. And the basically like Judgment Day occurs and everybody's wiped out and these demons come to Earth and the two girls hole up in the peep show booth and have to get along and fight the demons. And it's written by the guy who does that hack slash comic. So I think it's quite a bit of attention. So I'm pretty excited to check that out. And they just wrapped my buddy John Pata's movie Black Mold, which seems like it's going to be pretty awesome too. So lots of cool stuff coming out from my film family that I'm really excited about, and I'm very very proud to be able to promote for them to your audience. So you'll have to check those things out as well. I'm sure they all have Instagrams and stuff like that. I know Black Mold does. So yeah, check it out. If you haven't watched The Stylist yet, I was a associate producer on The Stylist. That movie's been getting all over the place. It was considered one of the best horror films to come out last year by Variety and the Academy and Fangoria and stuff. So that one's out there too, and lots of other fun stuff. So plenty of places to check out things that the film family that I work with is a part of. So yeah, thanks for getting me on.
Of course. You're one of the people that has an open door to come back anytime.
Well,
because I always enjoy having you on. It's always a blast. And next time we're just going to talk horror.
Hell yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's run through 80s horror. I've been wanting to. I really want to sit and spend some time talking to somebody. I want to do a breakdown of all of the Alien ripoff movies from the 80s.
I'm down. I am down. I'll have to do a little research, but I'm down.
Galaxy of Terror, Forbidden World, Endless Descent, Leviathan, Deep Star 6, Creature, Alien 2 on Earth. Those are a couple of them. So you got a list right there to start with.
There we go. Yeah. Let's talk more about this, see if we can get it together.
Cool. It would be fun. It would be a lot of fun. Some of them are pretty damn good. So, all right, guys, take it easy. Thank you so much for having me on again. I really appreciate it.
You too. Thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate it. And apologize to your wife for us keeping you for so long.
Yeah, it's all right. She enjoys listening. She's been sitting here the whole time smiling. So you guys have a good night, okay?
Great. You too, Tony. Thanks again.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. So once again, I want to thank Tony Wash for coming on and talking with Leiann and I about horror in general, talking about what he has coming up and what he's currently working on. It's been far too long since we had him on, and it was a really fun time having him back on. Once again, that is Tony Wash. You can find his stuff at scotchworthy.com. Make sure you check out his movies. Go over to their YouTube channel at Scotchworthy TV. You can check out The World of Death. All those episodes are eventually going to be there. As he said, he's working on uploading them to that channel. Make sure you check out Bloody Disgusting TV. If you have a Roku, check it out. If you have Pluto or Sling, you can go check out Bloody Bites when they're programmed. Like I said, I had a hard time trying to find them, but just keep an eye out. You'll see when the programming comes up. And check those out. I'm sure they're a lot of fucking fun. And yeah, just show this guy some love. Show his friends some love that he mentioned in the show. Support these indie filmmakers because they're doing the best they can and they're actually putting love into what they're doing. And yeah, that's it. There will be links in the show notes. You guys can find us at Facebook. Just search for Skewered Universe. You can find our group and our page there. Join us, follow us, see what we're doing there. As far as the show, you can find us on Apple Podcasts and anywhere you get your podcasts. Pretty much located everywhere. Just search for Skewered Universe Podcast. And don't forget to support the show. You can go to our Patreon, patreon.com/Skewered Universe Podcast, where you can find upcoming commentaries. We're working on those. Trust me, we're working on them in the back end. And there are transmissions episodes available for you there as well. Once again, a great thanks to Tony Wash for coming on and talking with Leiann and I. We're going to have him on again because not only is he a great friend of the show, he's just a great guy all around, an awesome filmmaker. Like I said, go to scotchworthy.com, check out It's My Party and I'll Die If I Want To, The Break, High on the Hog, A Chance in Hell. These are all solidly made movies. Chance in Hell is a short. It's only 35 minutes, but check it out. It's really fucking awesome. Nazi zombie movie. It is great. The Rake is a throwback to those old school monster movies with really solid effects. And It's My Party is just a fun romp of indie filmmaking at its best. So that wraps it up for this episode. And until the next one, well, wait, before I say anything, this is episode 46. That means we are 4 episodes away from our big 50th episode. And we got some things coming up. So in episode 47, we will be discussing what we're going to do for our 50th episode. We're going to discuss a little extra thing that we're going to be doing so you guys can take part in something special. And coming up on April the 22nd at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, Leiann and I will be going live on 2G1C with JB and Chuck McNasty. You know, our friends over there. We're going to be on their show live streaming talking about Cannibal Holocaust. So make sure you tune in and check that out. That's going to be a fuck ton of fun. And until the next time we talk to you guys, stay safe and keep enjoying that universe that's just a bit skewered.